So commerce is an interesting word. There's a lot underneath that. It sometimes gets used interchangeably to talk about retail and retail media, but the kind of phenomenon of commerce and advertising is really much bigger than retail media, although retail media is a huge and important part of that story. So we actually released a white paper not too long ago defining what we call connected commerce, which is really about bringing a brand closer to the actual stream of shopping and transaction as it's happening. So that can take a lot of different forms. And by the way, the reason it matters is because consumers themselves are sort of shopping and interacting with shoppable moments in a lot of different ways these days. And so how do we help a brand who traditionally has not been a part of that flow, who sat outside of it, get closer? And how do we help them get smarter so that they can be reactive in the moments that matter to what consumers are doing? So what we wanted to explore in the white paper is this sort of series of phenomena that have been happening that actually add up to a larger whole. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about the notion of connected commerce, right? So retail media is one way in which brands can get closer to this consumer in these moments of commerce. But there are these other dynamics going on that are really important when you consider consumers and how they are traversing the purchase journey. So one really important phenomenon is influencers, right? They are themselves becoming engines of commerce. We have some really interesting research that we actually just released looking at consumer behavior and attitudes around kind of modern shopping. And they will say that retailers themselves are a big impetus for their shopping more quickly, for them getting to transaction more quickly, because there's so much reduction in friction in the kind of process with retailers. But they'll also talk about influencers as a place where moments of commerce are happening for them. So in this consumer research, we found, for example, that of people that have actually purchased through an influencer post, something like 42% would say that that purchase was spontaneous. In other words, they are literally creating net new demand as influencers. So that's really powerful. So how does a brand kind of tap into that phenomenon? You also have things like shoppable advertising. Think about the opportunity with something like CTV, where you have these huge retailers that can actually fulfill when someone sees an ad, clicks to buy, and is able to actually purchase. So when you have those things happening at scale, you start to think to yourself, will this become a new normal for consumers, right? These kinds of instantaneous, I can have it, I want it now, I will purchase it. And so that phenomena, that set of phenomena, really is what we're talking about when we're talking about connected commerce. Commerce and advertising colliding.
So why now? Why is Omnicom putting this out into the world?
I think Omnicom has a pretty strong point of view on what's happening at this nexus of commerce and media. If you look at the acquisition of Flywheel, who's a hugely important player in the commerce space, when you marry something like that with the media capabilities and technology capabilities of an Omnicom Media Group, you're able to really tell a very compelling story to brands who are trying to piece together what is a very fragmented and complex ecosystem and a very non-linear shopping journey now. So how do you sort of take all of those pieces and create a whole that's better for the brand?